Welcome to episode 1 of Gel Studios Live. The good news is you're not just putting up with me because we've got the whole crew here. Let me just change. We've got the boss people that are here with us this time. Is that the right way to say it?
He's the boss.
Well, that's not what he said. That's definitely not what he said. We do have obviously the founder, the big cheese, the big boss, Graeme Leighfield. And we've got Carly as well that keeps him in check.
I do.
In more ways than one.
Absolutely. Well, guys, this is episode 1 that, frankly, Graeme, you and I have been talking about this for a very long time, haven't we?
Just down the other end of the office.
Yes, it was.
About 9 months ago, maybe. I think it was. Yeah. I remember you coming in. I've got this idea.
It was.
Hard hats on, let's have a chat. And here we are.
Under the guise of, let me have a look at the work you're doing so far. By the way, while I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's lovely to be here. And well, you know that I've wanted to be part of this since day one. So it's really nice to be here for a show and to see all the stuff that you've done with the other clients and the purpose and the visual element of PR.
Yes, exactly.
It's great to be here.
Visual PR, filling that gap between PR and marketing. Yeah, exactly right. Oh, and it's thank you again for your help, because we teamed up on the branding, because I needed a logo. You guys helped with the branding, with some paraphernalia off the back of that, the website. And just as per usual, so that's grown because, of course, our relationship goes a long way back. The Open Doors training website as well.
It does, yeah.
And we're going to touch on even before that as well.
We were. It's going to be a bit of a time journey, I think, today, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And that's the plan of this one. Now, in terms of this is going to be a monthly show.
Yep, that's right.
This is actually as live. So we've just hit record instead of broadcast, but there's no editing, there's no censorship.
As we are.
Exactly. And that's the nature of these shows. But from December onwards, we're going to be going live each month.
We are, yeah. And I think it was important to do as live today because we've got a couple of different camera setups. I'm in and out of meetings, working office as well. So we don't know. The doorbell might go off.
The
lunch van will go. Right. Yeah, exactly. So we'll just see what happens with it all. But no, it's great just to get into the rhythm of it.
Well, they do say don't work with kids, animals, and Graham's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't disagree.
Sorry.
Especially when he's date stamped, where he's got his Movember tash on.
So we need to address the.
We've got a special guest appearance, Thomas the Tash. So by the time this goes out, I don't know if the link will see that. We'll put the link in so people can donate. So if there's an element of humour or laugh at my expense, you get from seeing me with this.
Yes.
Which I'm equally surprised about because I've never grown anything like that before in my life. I didn't know I could.
Okay.
But yeah, if people find it funny, then hey, that's what it's about.
For a good cause, isn't it?
Yeah.
You sound like that's a mantra every morning.
Do you know what?
For a good cause.
When I see Graeme every day, I kind of got used to it. There was someone that saw him for the first time. Was it last week?
It was.
They kind of looked at
Shakespeare, and he was like, "Oh, it's going well in November." Then I was like,
"Yes, cheers, thank you."
They kind of look at him, and I'm like, "Why have they got that funny look on their face?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's doing November."
Yeah. He's not starring in special films.
No, I'm not. Goodness me, yeah.
But I mean, it does date stamp with that, and great cause as well. But it means, as you say, we're testing out the audio, we're testing out the cameras, but it gives us that opportunity to really deep dive into a whole host of things. But future episodes, so this one might be the longest because we've got a lot of history to here. But we've got we're going to do things like meet the teams. We've got any news announcements that could come up, which I know there's one that's on the verge, so that could feature in next month. We've got your B Corp certification as well to touch on. We could have guests on, we could have customers on. It's going to be a monthly show, and it's to be sort of educational as well. So some of the hot topics that you guys work on with people that still needs us as clients to have responsibility. So it's sort of educational to make sure that everybody is aware of what they need to do, what they need to understand.
Yeah, and I think it's just keeping it fluid. I mean, I remember you saying at the beginning, let's not put too much structure around it. I'm normally a devil for the detail.
You were.
But embracing just the fluidity of it. So we want to bring clients on, we want to bring good causes on, to give them a spotlight, a platform to shout about, and we want to use it to look back. And that's not something that we've not done enough of as an agency. We do lots of work, lots of various, very different pieces of work, all the way from brochures to websites. And we want to use that as a spotlight to pull the members of the team in, talk about that, maybe some of the thought process that goes behind it. And I think it's really important in this day and age to do that, so that people can get an insight into what we do as a creative agency, because, you know, we're the little guys in the creative space. You know, you've got big organizations out there like One-on-One, Wix, Fiverr, all those other sort of places, which can put so much into marketing the service and the outcome, but there's never any real sort of thought or explanation about the process that goes into it. And it's that element of education we love to bring to the table. And it's from a place where we understand if people want to go and use those services, that's cool. But there is a fundamental difference in terms of what you get as an outcome from going with a creative agency, the thinking, you know, the consultancy side of stuff, all these other things. And this is going to give us a fantastic platform to do that in our way. I think that's the biggest thing.
Exactly, bring the personalities out, and that's a key element of it. And I mean, I have to turn around and say, like, for example, when the one I can remember the most, because it's the most recent, as simple as that, is that visual PR is that when you know, not only you and I talked about some things, but I sat down with I think a couple of your team at different stages, and just literally all I had to do was outpour the thinking that I had for the organization, for the objectives, for all of that. And you're able to just take that information and create something from it, or create a number of things, so that you can say, well, if I took it this way, this is what it would be. If I went this way. And I was able to then, as the owner and the one passionate about my business, and go, that's it. That's the one. That's what works.
And dare I say it, that's when you realize you have that click moment. Yes. You know, you're there with you, and you know that they've got it. And we live for those moments. We call them light bulb moments.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, when you see a client's eyes, you know, go, whether you're showing them a visual or a direction that you're going in, it's those moments we live for. And you just don't get that when you're doing it with, you know, like I said, an online service. You just don't get it.
I think because we have the chance to sit down and listen as well. That's where it all starts, is those initial conversations where we can just listen to that outpouring, and that could come in any way, shape or form. And then it's about the ability to obviously go away, strip that down, align it, and then hopefully present that back to them.
Which I've always thought must be challenging as well, because you do, for that moment when us as the proud business owners that will just wax lyrical about our business, our idea and everything else, and you have to sit there and take it all on and then sort of evolve something from that. But if you go zone out for just a moment on that explanation, or you don't transport yourself into that thought process, you miss a spark in that creative process that you need, that could mean you miss
something key.
Yeah.
And it's about kind of tuning into the whole conversation. Obviously, we've been doing it for a long time. We know the right questions to ask. We know when to intervene. We know when to let someone talk about whatever it is they're talking about, because you can tell they're on a path in their story, and that it's leading to something. And it's knowing when is the right point to kind of pause. We need a little bit more detail on that, or let's actually let it run.
We're in the business of listening.
Yes.
You know, intensively listening.
Yeah.
And the thing is that does go both ways.
100%.
And I think that's where you get the best out of working with a creative agency such as ours. You know, the conflict moments, the tough conversations, those are the things which we love, because normally there's something there which is yet to be discovered or explored.
Yeah.
And when we go through that, not only do you get sort of like the best outcome from it, you know, but it's also what keeps you memorable, and it also is what keeps you unique. And that's one of the things that we found, certainly in feedback from pitch scenarios, is we will ask the tough questions, and when other people go and get pitches by other people and they've not asked those questions, well, those questions are already circling in their heads, and that manifests itself in, well, why didn't they ask me that question? You know, and that's why, you know, there's equal people which say they love to pitch last. There's equal people which say they love to pitch first. Like I said, what Carly said, we've been doing this, you know, 10 years now. It's our 10th year. We've got experience of all different scenarios, but it all starts from not being afraid to ask those tough questions. And it is hard sometimes. As you said, people are incredibly passionate about their idea, their brainchild. And, you know, that passion can take you down, you know, the yellow brick road. That's not always the right way to go. Sometimes you want to, you know, stage it, pull it back, refine it, you know, and it's hard. I always say this analogy, like, you know, dogs at the races, there's a reason why they show them the, you know, the little fake rabbit. They visualize it before they let the gates go. You're getting ready and raring to go. Ready and raring to go, yeah. And if we can get that energy with a project, you know, really refine the scope, really nail the purpose of it, so that when the gates are opened, you go out there and you've got the inertia, you've got, you know, all the marketing going out from a consistent place. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
And that's the element which we put into everything. Somebody comes, say, wanting a flyer, you know, what's the purpose of it? What are you trying to do with it? What's your goal? You know, that thing. And some people it's alien, and to others it is a pivotal moment.
But how do you deal with that? And I'm speaking again from experience here, is that it being alien is a very valid point, is that you turn around and go, as the business owner outside of your space, and go, no, you're not understanding, or why is that important what you're asking? How do you deal with the people like me that initially in those first conversations I might not understand? I've just said I want a flyer and dump that information on for me. You've got to go, no, seriously, you need to think of this.
So one of our company behaviors is called being brave. And that manifests itself in many ways. But one such instance of this, using that exact example, is it's really important for us to know the purpose of this, because we're in it for the long haul. You know, we're going to be completely honest with you. We don't want to just design a flyer. We'd love to work with you on loads more things. And for us to get that level of detail is really important. The brave part comes in not only asking the question, but being prepared for the consequences. And, you know, we are going through a tough period at the moment where we're going from, you know, what people have said, startup mentality to, you know, proper business. You know? And we know when we onboard clients that we need to ask tough questions to understand if they're a right fit. From the most basic level of things like, you know, billing, commitment, time to have conversations with us, but also where they're looking to go towards and what they're trying to do, and for us to help them with that. And the harsh reality for us is that, you know, clients that do just want the flyer, you know, it's not the best use of our time, but also their budget. So this is where our collaboration model comes in, you know. So we've got some great relationships with local businesses, which that will be more of their forte. You know, we'll refer them over to that. But equally, what we've done is, you know, we've embraced things like Canva. So for example, you know, if you just want to have some graphics made, then look, we do a workshop. We can teach you how to use that. We can set you up with the templates. You can create it all on your own. And it's not about potentially doing business with that organization there and then, but it's certainly putting the first right impression down for them. And if that is that 2-3 years down the line we work together, then so be it. If it's not, but we've helped them in that little instance, that's great as well. So yeah. And
going back to the point about being brave, I think one of the biggest compliments that we receive, and certainly that I love to receive, is that what we do is very thought-provoking. The amount of clients that will come to us and say, that's such a good question, like, haven't thought of it like that way, or God, that's really thought-provoking. And that's those moments there when actually we are challenging, not from a negative place, but to get more detail out of someone, or actually, have you considered this? And the opportunity that then opens up when they have that slight shift in perspective because of kind of a route that we're trying to take them. That's a massive compliment, I think, for us, that we're not just sat there doing. There's a lot of thought element into what we do. Definitely. And that takes time, and it starts with the listening. So yeah, that's a big compliment, I think. That we all...
And as you say, is it does become, you know, long-standing relationships, because I mean, for us, it's got to be
8 or 9 years for us.
It has to be, I've lost track. I should know, because my first company, Open Doors Training, was still going strong. Was the first time that I became a customer of yours. And that carried on, and we've done that relationship sort of evolved over the years, including the pandemic in the middle that kind of sent things backwards and everything. Let's not dwell on that. That one just stays there. But you know, it was that then, and then coming back after that took some extra work. But then, as you say, is that I came straight to you with the visual PR, and it's not only was it the stuff that we did, it was like that whole almost partnership feeling from a customer perspective.
Totally.
That we have. That doesn't mean I've agreed with everything you've ever said, but equally, it's not supposed to be that way. Is that exactly. And by the way, when I say that, I mean as in we've had a couple of ideas. I've gone, no, I really want to go, and you've kind of gone, okay, fine.
I think it all just comes down to your conscience. And for us, you know, if a client's suggesting things which we believe are bad, none of your ideas were, by the way. It was just, you know, differences of opinion, which are respectful. We know that we've got to get that off our chest.
Absolutely.
And
I use a phrase though in my open doors public speaking training that dead cow or beef steak, both exactly the same thing.
Beef or cow?
Yeah, one sounds a damn sight tastier than the other.
Yeah.
So it's about how you get that message across.
Totally. And I think the biggest problem with service-based industries is that because people exchange money, they think that's the be all and the end all. And I said to a few people, did you ever watch the last Christopher Nolan Batman film with Bane in?
Probably.
Yeah, okay. Well, okay, we'll see if we can find a clip or whatever. But basically this guy says to Bane, like, I've paid you a small fortune. And he just comes up to him and he just puts his hand on his shoulder. He says, do you think because you pay me, you own me? And it's like, when you look at that as service-based industry, that's the perception, but actually you're paying for expertise.
Yep.
You know what I said at the beginning about people can go and they focus on the outcomes. The outcomes are going to be set based upon, the thought process that goes into it. And that thought process is collaborative. And that's what starts with the listening. If you don't do that right, you might get short-term success, but definitely not long-term. And that's not where we want to be. We want to be long-term.
And as a customer, neither do we want that short-term success. It is about the long-term. And you're prepared to evolve that advice, that direction, because times change, don't
Exactly.
they? And that makes it evolve. So, I mean, that sort of gives an insight into the creative work. And I do love it. I mean, Alicia, for example, when we did the visual PR logo, and it still sort of kept my purple that, for whatever reason, I think it's because it's my wife's favourite colour in the open doors training and the Chris Dawes comms, so all my media work as well. That was there. And it's like, look, I'm happy to move away, but let's make a nod, like you would with your green.
Keep it faithful.
Dare we ever get him away from green? No. The hell will.
There's less of it in here than I'd have liked.
Whose idea was the orange in the visual PR?
Alicia, and that was it. Was that she turned around, and this was from where I was gushing about the business idea, and she went, everything I got from that is that it was so vibrant and exciting. This whole idea. And orange kind of gives that, and the purple and orange work well together. And it was even those little things, and you suddenly see it, and you go, yes. And I would actually say is that orange has probably become the main colour for visual PR. It can have those two.
Yeah, very. I didn't have saying that.
Orange on the mug.
Exactly.
But it's lovely to sort of have that relationship evolve. And I mean, we happen to just use as an example the flyer. Is that I again as the business owner went, I need to talk about all of this, and she kind of went, no,
less is more. Less is more.
You really can't. And then she sort of like created it and went, look, that's kind of more. And to be honest, I think it was still more than she'd have liked on it.
Yeah.
But she went, that's kind of the best way that we can get away with this. And she did sort of bring to life the flyer for me as well.
Nice. So, she's on holiday today. It's a shame, so we could have got her in on this. Maybe next time.
We'll get her in.
We'll do it next time.
They're hiding. There's at least two hiding today. I know. Well, that is a great way to launch into this one. What I want to do next is that I want to take us back and do a little bit of a journey through the history of Gel Studios.
Yep.
So you've already heard him say that it's the 10th year anniversary here. Let's go right back, Graeme. And I'm going to say Graeme because it does start
with Graeme.
Yeah, for at least a couple of years, I think we've worked out.
Yeah.
Take us back to that, Graeme. What were you doing and what led you to setting up Gel?
I think we've got to go right back.
Here we go.
Yeah, I know.
Everyone.
Everybody, get your teas and coffees ready. I just remember my dad worked in IT, and I always had a fascination with computers. And I just remember vividly, because I knew we were talking about this today, like kept thinking it, kept going back and kept going back. And I remember in my GCSEs being really bored. And I remember thinking, I wouldn't mind making a little website, because I was like into my inline skating and everything. And me and my friends did some videos and stuff, normally of ones of us just falling over, like jackass style. And I remember vividly trying to create my first web page, and I learned a very hard lesson. I spent a day trying to just change the background color of the page. And this is before CSS. I'm not going to get technical, but I spelled color wrong. Well, no, actually, I didn't spell color wrong. I spelled it in the American way, which is wrong. And I spent a day trying to change it. And I just remember that was my first thing, which I was like, oh, I fixed something, now it's visual, and that's amazing. I remember getting my first free web space, which had no like, you know, proper domain name and everything. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And then got interested in cars, you know, as pretty much every sort of red-blooded young man does. A certain film came out, Fast and Furious. So yeah, got all the neons in the cars and everything.
Which number? Number one.
It was number one. I think I'm on 10 now, yeah. But my point is we had like an online car forum, and that needed to be styled and designed, but also coded. So this is what gave me the knowledge of making not only web pages, but also PHP, which is what pretty much anything sort of technical runs off of. And I just ran that for a good couple of years. And when it went from a hobby to professional was that I was doing some work for Infinite Field Marketing on the launch of the first Android phone in the UK. And my role, we were part of the TARTS, and it was called the T-Mobile Academy. Yeah, T-Mobile Academy Retail Trainers. So me and about 4 others. Shout out to Sunita, actually, if she's watching this, because she's a client of ours with the Spicy Biker, and we've stayed very good friends ever since. We used to go into the top key stores and train the people in the stores, like Phones For You, Car Phone Warehouse, about how to sell this phone to the general public. So this is what gave me my ability to speak to people at all levels. This is what also then I was interested in the phones, but they were really lacking in reporting. So I built a couple of like reports and little things that the team could use to fill data out, and it would make at the end of our days easier, really. Well, anyway, this was around the time where T-Mobile was going through a bit of trouble in the UK, and they basically cut back any and all of their field marketing budgets. And effectively, T-Mobile was run by a company called Deutsche Telekom. Deutsche Telekom had a contact there that I'd met through the work I was doing in the UK. And they said, we want to talk to you. We've got a position to create e-learning content for all of the same stores, but obviously it's cost less. But it's in Bonn. My first question was Bonn, like Germany. So I was like, oh, okay. And it was going into professional, you know, web development. It was an opportunity. So I was like early 20s, and it was like, you know, I'd never traveled, something that I would still love to do in my later life. And so me and my ex-wife went over there for the best part of a year.
Oh, wow.
And alongside this, I was still doing my car forums, and the software that it was run on was called Envision Powerboard. And they released a piece of software called IP Content. And what it did is it bolted onto your forum, and it allowed you to build web pages, but also pull things through from the forums.
Yeah.
So I was able to build web pages, which could interact with the backend system and display meaningful content to people. And I started building some clients, and the word just kind of got out kind of around the world that I was doing this stuff. So I started doing more things, some paid add-ons and everything like that. And then I stumbled across this little piece of software called ModX. And the template and engine behind it was very similar. The way that the pages were put together, it was an open source piece of software. So you didn't have to pay license fees or anything like what you did with the Envision Powerboard. And it just, you know, it just took off from there. Realized that Lorraine, my ex-wife, wasn't very happy over there. Couldn't find a job. You know, family was everything to her, which I completely respect. So we came back. I ended up working for Infinite Field Marketing again for about a year, and all the skills I learnt over in Germany, I brought back to them. So we developed an app for them called Instant Update, and it was one of the first mobile devices for BYOD, bring your own device.
Yep.
And basically what it was instead of them paying to have a Windows tablet, the maintenance of the tablet, the cost of the hardware, made the bold move, the brave move to look at the demographic of people that are doing their field marketing, say, look, these are people that are like students, 18, 25, they're going to have smartphones. You know, so the iPhone was rife then.
Yeah.
Let's build something where they use their own stuff. And I believe it was decommissioned only a few years ago in life for another thing. So it was a really amazing thing to kind of be
10
part
Fast
of.
and Furious is later.
Yeah, exactly. But my freelance work kept going more and more and more. And the only reason, to be honest, we went back was to get a mortgage. So to work and to get the employment history to then get a mortgage. Yes. And we got the mortgage. And then literally the month later, I set up what was known as GL Creations. So that was 12 years ago.
GL Creations.
Yeah, and that was the developer in me. It was
Yeah.
very, and I ended up working with an old school friend of mine called Mike Garlick. He did the design, I did the dev, and we did loads of like brochure style sites for Neptune retailers, basically. So Mike, he's a fantastic designer, and he has, you know, he's like, I'm not going to compromise how my design should be online. I want it to look the way it's made. And my approach was, well, why wouldn't it be? So we worked very, very well together. We decided to share an office together. So we had a little office at Base Point. Mike helped me rebrand to Gel Studios because it was more, I knew that I wanted to create what I guess is called a traditional agency.
Yeah.
And that's where we came up with the G, with Mike. And yeah, then we got this little office in Inglesham together. It was a little bit out of the way. And I think Mike wanted to go more into sort of like the brand and photography route. I wanted to go more agency. So then I worked with my friend Ollie at Aura for a couple of months, had a few really good months sort of hot desking at his place. I think we did more table football though than anything else.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, that was and then it was like, right, this is getting serious now. Like if I'm going to do this, sort of cancel the World of Warcraft subscription, you know,
You're selling this.
I know. Yeah. And I know that I needed to get somebody in-house to do design. And Carly had reached out to me, thinking that she was acquiring with a massive agency. Because obviously I got the messaging on the website completely right.
Which
you
is
know,
that's part of the marketing.
It was
It's
positioned as an
always
agency,
back bigger than you are.
you know, and at the time it's like, you know, I haven't got anything available.
I was about to say, had you advertised, but yours was
just reached out.
No, I just reached out, found the website as a local Swindon agency. Thought, oh, they look like an agency that knows what they're doing. You know, room for me to grow.
That's it.
And then I found out it was.
And then we had a chat. And we had a chat, and over at Costa at All, didn't we?
Yeah.
And Carly freelanced.
Other coffee shops are available.
Other coffee shops are available. And then that was it really. The week after, I said to Carly, let's go and have a look at our new office. So we went to Gemini, met Jackie, lovely Jackie.
Yeah.
And she took us for a tour around Gemini before any of the partitions were up. So we
Yeah.
got to see the whole space open. Yeah. And we picked the smallest, I mean, this was, you know, big decision is to pay rent on something. It's the biggest expense, obviously second to employees. And so we had the smallest little, and I mean, the room was smaller than what we're sat in now. I mean, it was dinky.
Yeah.
But we made the most of that, didn't we, that room? And then we hired a few more people, got to make some good friends. And we moved into a slightly bigger unit down at the back. And there was this really noisy neighbour.
Yeah.
He was always doing these booming
dodgy
voiceovers. Yeah, exactly.
It was I.
And we knew that we needed more space. And we just had a conversation, didn't we? There was another unit that was available in the office. So, you know, Chris will say I ousted him. I didn't. I covered his costs generously.
You did? I will give you that. All right, let's go bribe.
Yeah, there you go. Let's call it what it is, bribe. But he took it, so he's an accomplice.
I did.
And then we knocked through there. There's some quite questionable, some quite questionable health and safety videos about that as well. And then, everything was going really well, and then we got broken into. And that was, I always said I'd love to be on the front page of the paper for something. Not that.
Not that.
But we got broken into. I, you know, on the record, was not happy with how it was handled by the management company of Gemini. They'd recently been taken over by an investment company. I had a phone call from them. I knew the agenda, you know, you're going to say something or not. And it was just like, we need to find somewhere else. And so again, big boy pants on, big decision, going from serviced office into our own self-contained unit. But the vibe that I wanted, that was very much it. And I wanted that vibe from when me and Mike went out to Inglesham, our own little self-contained place.
Yes.
We were kind of running before we could walk back then. But now it was like, right, okay, you know, wiser, you know, got a bit of mileage behind me now. Let's budget, forecast, all the proper business things, dare I say. And October 5 years ago, we got the little unit down the road.
Just down there. Yeah.
And that was amazing. We got so many good memories down there, and that's why we called the meeting room behind us Lancaster, because we wanted to just give it a little bit of a tribute. And the smaller one is called Gemini because of Gemini House. Because apart from that end bit, everything else was
exactly. It's a key part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, everything was going great, and it got broken into again. But what we learned from the first one was that, you know, look, it's a horrible thing to happen, but realistically, nobody was hurt, nobody was injured. We had the right levels of insurance. Dare I say it, we turned it into a positive thing. And that, what, you know, we won an award for it, our resilience at Techies, Tech Team of the Year, because the way that the team dealt with that is one of the best things ever, the best ever. I was so proud of everybody that was involved with it. And it showed people that, look, you're going to get knocked down. You know, the graphs you see with business and all that lot. Yeah. But this was a real example. Fortitude was rife that day. And I remember vividly you and me sat watching Thor Ragnarok, or so at 3 a.m. in the morning, waiting for the glazing guy to come and patch it up.
It was surreal.
But it was the friends of the business, you know. So we had like Andy Brackenbury, Andy Hollingsworth from Utility Warehouse. We had Craig from Nano Green coming by with donuts and drinks. We had Carly and her dad going down to the Oracle Business Centre, filling out the back of his Range Rover with iMac. I mean, coming down the motorway, it must have looked like you'd been a bloody
Everyone,
got lunch in for the team. And by the end of the day, everything was back up and running. Our clients understood everything. And that was like, we've got resilience, you know.
We were up and running very quickly after. You need a minute to process what's happened again. But very quickly, it was a case of, right, we've done this before, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We know what to do. We come back, we bounce back before, we can do it again, stronger. We can come back stronger.
Yeah.
And it was just, dare I say, it wasn't process driven, but it was, we knew what we had to do and why, and it, you know, it went smoothly, and everyone contributed hugely to that.
Yeah. And then we hired some more, and then lockdown. And
have you taken on the building opposite?
Come into that.
Right, I've lost track.
Timelines. It's good to download this actually, because it's so we had lockdown. The way that I built the business was, it was lots of small instead of few of many. And what that meant was that you know, we were providing our clients with core services, you know, like hosting their emails. Yeah. And I'm very risk averse with that, you know, never taken out any funding, anything, everything's just organically grown. Yeah. And what we found in lockdown is that, you know, hardly anybody cancelled any services because they still needed them, or we were there to help them go into like e-commerce and do those things very, very quickly. And so we were very resilient, and I was very thankful that in that time we were able to offer some clients that were struggling. And you know, I'm not going to mention any names, but I have a massive amount of empathy for people that were in the B2C space and the lack of support they got from the government. Yeah. And we were able to, you know, pause services, do other things. Yeah. And it was kind of like, look, let's have a tough conversation. You can't pay, that's fine. What can we do to help you? And that, in that moment, those feelings were very few and far between. And for us to offer that, I'm incredibly proud that we did that for all the clients which we were able to offer help for. And so we carried on, just kept going on, embraced remote working, embraced hybrid working. Me and Carly were in the office taped out, which was funny.
Yeah, we all had like masking tape.
We like masking tape. It kind of went semi-viral, like people just sticking down masking tape. But we made the most of it. And when we were coming out of lockdown, you know, everywhere was like, oh, remote hybrid working. And we were like, well, I don't think that's the way to go. I think that if people want to do that, that's fine. But when we're getting people together, what we spoke about earlier, the conversations, the face-to-face and everything, we need to create a space for that. And I really believed in it. Yeah. And what happened was we had an amazing new retainer that came on board. And when I say came on board, the gentleman agreement came on board. I foolishly said, we'll take the unit over the road. And I remember Katie coming in whilst I was taking up floor tiles, ripping down the rooms.
You can't stop doing things like that.
No, I'd love to.
At home or at work.
He's very happy.
I remember Katie coming in, I had my gloves on and I had my spade and everything. And she said, they've they're not able to because their investors are involved with another
Oh
agency.
my God.
So I'm sat there like,
Oh dear.
okay, just agreed to hire Lewis.
That was the cleaned up version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just agreed to hire Lewis as marketing manager. And we're like, we have just been completely thrown in here. So it was like, right, the gift, try and see the positives. So we got in touch with Things, did all of our contracts, you know, proper big business stuff, you know, learning from mistakes. We carried on with Unit 7. We turned that into our meeting collaboration space. And do you know what? Not but 3-4 weeks after we opened that, all of us were like, how the hell did we do this without this space?
Like, just,
Yeah,
you can't imagine not having it.
Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
as a team, I feel like talking to clients and friends and family, we're in quite a unique situation where every member of the team preferred working in the office to at home.
That's what
And
you want,
that's,
isn't it?
yeah, and
Yeah.
No bribes were given.
No.
So I didn't say that, by the way. No.
and we've got the ability to work from home, and you know, if people need to, then there's no problem with that. But given, you know, the choice, everyone opted to come into the office. We were all chomping at the bit through lockdown to get back into the office, because although we made remote working successful and it wasn't a challenge for us, part of being a creative agency is that you're collaborating with each other. You have those talks, you're bouncing off of each other.
Sometimes
and
it's not even the talks.
it's just
the
yeah,
what are you thinking about?
yeah.
You don't get that.
And you
don't
know,
get that
we are a
really.
very close-knit team, and it was really nice actually to just have everyone in the same boat. Like, yes, we want to be in the office as soon as we possibly can. And then obviously Unit 7 extended that to have clients come in, and the amount of clients that were, again, chomping at the bit to come in because they were bored of sitting at home and having Zoom calls and everything else. So to give them the opportunity to come in and actually have a proper cup of coffee with us and, you know, sit and chat, that was received really well. Really. And it's still, and hence why we've got Lancaster now set up in the same way, because you can't beat a face-to-face conversation.
Well, and a training space, which was initially, I know
Yeah.
you've now expanded on that, but initially, obviously, I use it as a training space to train some of your team, and it was such a great space for that as well.
Yeah.
And it just really sort of evolved everything.
Exactly, and I think that's where it kind of felt, you know, we've got a place we can enable, you know, and that's why we knew that we wanted to open it up, you know, for a good cause. You know, fantastic guy that does like our health and safety, fire safety training. We say to him, you want to use the space, you go for it. You get people in, you go for it.
Yeah.
So we've had like the Alpha have been in there doing training, and there's been a couple of other places that have used it. And it's like, well, we're going to give them that space, because I've seen co-working spaces in Swindon. You know, I've been targeted by these places that want to try and get us to go there, and they just don't work. You know, I mean, we try to monetize things immediately, you know, isn't cool. And then, you know, I know you need to have money makes the world go round. I get that. But I just don't think that recipe's quite right. And so we're like, well, let's just remove that hurdle. If you are a good cause, or you're a creative and you want to come and you want to explore and you want to share and you want to collaborate, our door's always open. And that's why then when, if we go forward another year, when this space became available, we knew that we had to go big on that. And that's why, you know, the whole meeting room Lancaster behind us is all decked out for that. We've got smaller space, like I said, for Gemini, for more sort of intimate one-to-ones or confidential conversations. But this whole area here, which has been geared up, you know, for sort of speaking opportunities and seating areas, you can get like 20, 30 people around there. And we've got the production end at the other end of the office, which is where, you know, the work happens. And that leads us to now, I guess.
And this was a big project. Obviously, I saw it just completely ripped out, and you redid it. I loved even down to the fine details where the wonderful beams. I don't think we've got any of the camera angles can quite see them on this one, but we certainly have it on some of the photos where you're able to see the beams. And they were black, they were painted black, and you got those taken back to this beautiful wood, and it was just those little fine details. The garden area at the back that was just a bramble bush is now being cleared, has some sort of like picnic benches out there, and you know, you're able to do things. And
Debbie was amazing. Debbie from Ashlar ID was our interior designer. And you know, she and I worked together about how we wanted this place to be. You know, she put together like a mood board, you know, swatch kind of thing about everything, and she bloody nailed it, to be honest with you. She absolutely nailed it. And the beams were her idea. I didn't even know it was an option, but they were black before, very sort of farmhousey, and making them modern. I mean, everybody's probably, what are they looking up at? We're looking at
the beams are up there.
Yeah.
just adds an element to this space, and anybody that comes here always mentions the beam. It's a lovely starting place, certainly for anybody that comes here, but also any prospects, because, you know, the B Corp thing, we're you know, really passionate about that. Sustainability, giving back, all of that lot. So for us to take a, you know, 400-year-old, you know, farmhouse that was made into, you know, some offices, it was just used as an office, to turn it into our work home, which is the way we call it, and to fill it with things, you know, all jokes aside, all the Lego and all the Marvel stuff and everything. There's things like that that make it feel like a place you want to be, and that's what clients see when they come here.
Yeah.
It's had a lot of love poured into it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
From Graeme especially, but the whole team. It's more than just somewhere that you come from 9 till 5. It's somewhere our friends and families have been here. And that's,
all the kids.
the kids come in. There's more
kids,
space for them to run around now.
Yeah.
And it is, you spend more time here than you do at home. And it's really important, I think, for that element of comfort.
Yeah,
you know, to feel safe. And also because of the nature of what we do, having that extra space to just branch out, you know, whether you want to be on your own for a bit, whether you want to invite people in, just break away from your desk. There's so many different spaces in here that works for everyone in whatever situation they're in. And that's something that we've had elements of that in previous offices, but with the sheer size of this place, it's a real nice kind of opportunity to do that.
Well, including the fact that you've got the variety of different types of spaces to do what you need to do. You've got the at your desk getting on with the work. You've got different size meeting rooms to be able to break away from that, and anything from 2 to all of you together to have those conversations of whatever it needs to be. Clients in here, partners in here, external people coming in. Got a lovely kitchen, all of that, and it does. And I've been here socially when you put on some of the events, and it really works for that. Whether the weather's nice enough to use the outside, or even if it's not and it's in here, it still just works.
It's welcoming, and it's a physical representation of who we are.
Yeah,
you know, it is our shop front. It is which we use, you know, unapologetically in all of our marketing, all of our imagery.
Absolutely.
Me
too in these shows, you know.
I mean, it is us. In blocks, in mortar.
We're proud of it.
Yeah, very proud of it. Very proud of it.
I mean, that took us on a good sort of like, and I will say that was still a fairly potted version of the history, in fairness to you. But where we sort of got you initially involved, let's just quickly change the tack. So you initially saw this website and went, "There's a big company which is part of marketing. This is back bigger than you are."
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when you found out it wasn't?
So
on it.
So I emailed him saying, I know you're not actively hiring at the moment, but I'm freelance. I'm looking for a position.
Freelance what at that point?
Designer.
Okay.
So yeah, I was
a web designer.
Both actually, web and graphic design.
Okay.
And I had selection of kind of loyal clients, was doing well for myself, but just did not want to be working on my own. My end goal was to be part of an agency, part of a team, hence why I was out kind of looking for work. And I'd interviewed in a couple of agencies in London, but also was open to staying closer to home, like all my family, my friends are here.
Yeah.
So there was a couple of emails that went back and forth, and it was Graeme I was obviously in touch with, and he came back and said, you know, we're not hiring, but if you're a freelance, what are your rates? I might have a couple of projects for you.
Okay.
So randomly, I remember we were in touch via Skype at the time. That was the chat platform. I know, right? I wouldn't even know how to use it now. And I remember chatting through Skype because that was just easier than email. And there was a couple of projects that came up. And at this point, it was very early comms. And I remember him saying, oh, I'm based in Hayden Wick as well, because I lived in Hayden Wick in Swindon at the time. I was like, there's no offices in Hayden Wick. And he was like, oh, I work from home. And I was like, huh?
Oh no.
Transpired it was obviously Graeme on his own. And I remember at the time I had that gut feeling. I was like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. But by that point, we'd already been in comms. And there was something there in terms of just the kind of the chat that we were having, the projects that
you just know.
So then we agreed to meet at Costa.
Yep.
And it was funny, we both turned up equally as passionate about our favourite colours. So the Costa table was split in half. Graeme puts his green laptop, green phone case, keys, and I'm there on the other side with my orange stuff. And it was like a war of colours. And we sat there and kind of talking about what it would be like if I was to join JAL full time. So, you know, Graeme said to me, like, freelance for me for the next 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
If it all goes well, there's a position at the end of it for you. And everything he was saying about the agency that he wanted to build was everything that I could ever have dreamt of. It just didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
And I remember going home to Mum, and she's kind of, we were stood in the kitchen. She said, oh, how would it go? And I said, he's offered me everything I could ever want in terms of a career. It's too good to be true. Because at the moment, it's Graeme sat in his bedroom office.
Yes.
And he's told me that we'll grow to an agency, 10 plus in our own office. I'd head up the design side, yada, yada, yada. And I remember stood there thinking, I've got nothing to lose. Because I'm freelancing at the moment,
So
which I don't want to do.
And you're going to be freelancing to start with anyway.
I'm going to be freelancing anyway. I might as well
put
my faith in him. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I've gained more experience. I've built another contact. We'll see how it goes. And 2 days later, he messaged me saying, going to go and look at an office at Gemini. Do you want to come? I'll come and pick you up in an hour. And I was like, oh my God, like, what? This is so fast. I remember going to Gemini, having the tour around the office with Jackie, and literally from then on, never looked back.
Wow.
And credit to Graeme, he's kept every promise that he made in terms of his vision for the agency. And we were so aligned on it that we wanted to get to an agency size of, 10 plus, eventually offer a range of services that wasn't just web. I could bring to that because of my design experience. And it's, we've literally never looked back.
And that is quite amazing. As you were explaining that, it's like going, well, that's where it is. That's where it is. And, with the challenges along the way. And now you're kind of sort of, what's your...
Creative director I'm sat in,
yeah.
So that was 8.5 years ago. 8.5? Yeah, 8.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And obviously since then, I've obviously came in, helped, with the design and the branding side of things. Obviously, Alicia's joined the team as well. So I head up, the design side. But the main thing for me is having the wider team, because it's more than just offering design or website. There's such a blend between everything that everyone does.
Yeah.
And
but you haven't tried to be, I mean, you will have had to have been at certain stages, but jack of all is that the team has grown with people specialising in the different areas.
That's something we've prided ourselves on.
Yeah.
And that's effectively the reason that I was given a position, is because Graeme knew that, if we're going to offer design properly, we need to hire a designer. And the same with the marketing team. And the reason that Lewis was brought on at the point that he was, we knew we wanted to be able to offer that service in our way with the right people at the right time. Me and Graeme between us, I'm sure, could have offered social media help to people, but it wouldn't have been right because it's not our core skill.
Yes, yeah.
And we needed someone that had the right knowledge and experience to be able to offer it properly in the gel way and to the quality that I think our clients expect us to as well.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, and then suddenly it evolves that Lewis has then got people working for him, and so that team has grown, and so it naturally, and it's included. And I'm trying to remember what it was. There was a certain area that you were doing that you don't do anymore.
Yeah, so it was where I started, the development side, and that's been a recent. That's been hard. I'll be honest with you. So commercially, developers are the highest paid sort of members of production team, and it's further made hard when they're in demand, and where we are geographically in between sort of Bristol, Bath, Oxford, London, You know, a tech startup can go and spend, you know, £100,000 on a developer easily. You know, salary wise, we wouldn't even be able to compete with half of that. So, you know, look, empathy, you go where you can do what you've got to do for your family and everything, but it's not sustainable. And one of the things I've come to terms with is, you know, I do have very, very high standards when it comes to development. They're just not sustainable either. And the only person that could do those is myself, in terms of the way that I like to do them. And the realization is that I'm doing more of the like leadership role in the business.
Yeah, of course.
Less and less time is available for me to do the development. And what's become of that, and you know, I can admit it now, I'm sort of past it. You know, I'm not the best developer out there anymore. You know, the technology has evolved and everything. So whilst I've got a good base of fundamentals, it's not bleeding edge. So for us to further, there's the lunch van.
We did say it is
lunch van. For me to further that avenue would take a lot of significant investment to go down that line. There's more risk than I'd be comfortable with. And I think that us truly understanding where we make a difference is, you know, helping our clients market their services through the means of, you know, websites, graphics design, and, you know, traditional marketing methods. The development doesn't come into that. And so that's where the collaboration comes in. We've got some fantastic relationships with some local companies. Then that is their expertise. So, you know, what Carly mentioned earlier, we're not going to do things unless we can do them our way. So we are going to collaborate with people that mimic our values, they understand where we're coming from, and also unlock opportunities for them. And that's a nice consequence of all of this, you know, working with potentially smaller businesses, enabling them to work on bigger projects. In my view, and I feel very strongly about this, we don't white label anything. Credit is where credit is due. And I believe in that.
To that, because you said, because Visual PR and Gel are not just doing this stuff for you, but it's going to be collaboration going forward as well. And you actually categorically said, I have zero interest in white labeling. You're the experts.
100%. 100%. And, you know, I think that when I was younger, a little wetter behind the ears,
doing own the world.
Yeah, well, you know, everybody does, you know. When you do a great piece of work and then you're like, you can't shout about it, you can't say anything. You know, I remember vividly doing some fantastic work for a company in Bath, and I remember going out for lunch with the owner, and he basically said, "Yeah, I'm just gonna say this. You know, you ever try to take any of our clients on, bury you." And I remember in that moment, if I ever turned into somebody like you, I am, you know, I will shut up shop. I'll do whatever, and that's why anybody that I've met that I've given work to, white label. And if a client has a problem with that, we won't work with them, because that's how you improve. That's how you can do greater things. You know, when you collaborate, you can achieve more than the sum of one. And I really believe in that. And this shift in terms of us now not doing, you know, highly technical things in-house, that is me, you know, putting, you know, doing what I'm saying, you know, believing in what I say there.
Just quickly on that, just to sort of, make sure I understand this. What's the difference between web development and web design?
Okay, so I guess when we look at our goal now, which is to market our clients' websites, as long as they've got a website which can communicate their message, can, you know, deal with their inquiries and other stuff, what platform it's built on, does it really matter? You know, I've played the game for ages, or you should have this content management system, you should have that content management system. When you get out of that mindset, it doesn't really matter. As long as it does what you need it to do and it conforms by the rules dictated by Google or other such things, it doesn't matter what it's built on. So you can develop a website to do everything. So let's just say, for example, an online shop. If you were doing it bespoke development, that would take easily 100 hours or so, you know, to do that. That is in-house development which has to be done. There's off-the-shelf solutions such as Spotify, an agency, Shopify, just Spotify, the music in the car on the way in. You know, there's things which, you know, there are limitations there in terms of what you can do, but, you know, it can do most of what it is.
You don't always need to go and reinvent the wheel.
No.
Totally. And I think that when we look at the goal of marketing our client's business, helping them get sales and everything, it all comes down to ROI.
Yeah.
And this is where the brave questions come in. I've got a budget, I want to build a shop. Okay, we can do X, Y, and Z for you. It's going to cost X, Y, Z. Well, that's not us. What are you hoping to get out of this? How can we best spend your budget?
Think objective instead of tool, basically. Yeah.
Totally. And this is where, again, the collaboration comes into all of this stuff, So there's an agency we're partnering with called Noughts and Ones, sustainable, care about the environment, want to work on great projects. Hopefully we're going to do some work together soon. They're Shopify experts. I wouldn't use anybody else. I've only had 2 or 3 meetings with the owner, and that clicking.
Going back to the Graeme thing, you just feel it.
Totally get it.
Don't always need to know why, just if you get that feeling sometimes.
Totally get it. And so like I said, it's been a bit of a bit of pill to swallow, because I really wanted to have an in-house dev team. I really did.
Yeah.
But it's just not working with the vision moving forwards, and it's okay. It's okay doing that, because now we've got an even more focused lens on how we can help our clients specifically.
And that's the key thing, though, from a client perspective, is that other customers can come to you and still kind of go, this is what I would need, and it can all be managed from you, even if some aspects are maybe from collaborative partners that are in there. And there's still the ability to go, I want a website. And you kind of guys are able to create that. It's just not suddenly making it this complicated e-commerce and
exactly. And we can the websites that we build in-house, they're still, I believe, way more advanced than what some of the other ones that are out there. We are still, we build everything bespoke.
Yes.
We don't use templates. We know that results in a cleaner code, faster load times, more tailored experience to that individual client, and that works well for us, and that's never going to change. It's when it goes beyond that, and then we've got obviously partners which we can introduce. But imagine the gift which we give to those partners with things like a really refined brief, really clear expectations.
Because it's already, the conversation's already a long way down the road.
And that's where we then pivot into more of like a consultancy thing, and that's where we can collaborate with obviously the third party, but then also the client. Do you really need that? You're aware that's going to have implications on this, and
which we wouldn't be aware of. That's the point.
Exactly. So
I love that when I was doing a show for a firm of accountants. I suppose I shouldn't name them.
You can name them.
Optimum.
There you go.
Yes.
Local accountancy.
Exactly.
All about local here.
And Mike, one of the accounts director there, and he turned around and used the example from their expertise, is that you don't go and hire a builder to build an extension on your house and then go and do it yourself. You have got that expert in, and them in their example was saying that they are the accountants. They are designed to know more than us as the business owners, so they can advise, they can guide us. You guys are in that same mold, whether it's the marketing, the branding, the website, and all of that sort of stuff. Is that, and even if some of it's got to be outsourced, from my experience as a client, it doesn't change. It's you guys on there. And that kind of gives light to what I think is the final thing to finish on here, because I know we're not going to be able to go into much detail on this one in this episode, but I'm going to use the phrase that makes sense of all of that: project management. And we're not going into detail right now, because things, as I understand it, need to be finalized, but that is a big area that is now going to be looked at, taken care of.
Totally. And that's one of the things which is sort of 2-3 years in the making for us. And doing the work is one thing, efficiently managing it, throughput, capacity, all those words which the team are probably sick to death of me hearing. Vital.
Cliche.
Exactly. But they are important things to measure in a service, for any service-based business. And I think you're completely right. And I think the only thing to say is that, and this comes from experience of myself as well, you have to get to a stage of your own business maturity and mindset to accept external help. I was far too long, certainly from the development side of stuff, to say we've got to do this all in-house. We've got to do it all in-house. When the actual thing is, you're just making more work for yourself. You're closed off to other opportunities, and you're just not connecting with other like-minded people potentially. And so I think when you realize, you need help, and when you're in the mindset of, do you know what, I want to hire in help to help me do the best of it, because I acknowledge that they're better at this than I am, that's when really good things can happen. Really good things can happen.
Agreed. Before we wrap it up, is there any final words that you want to give on? I think we've largely covered everything, but is there anything else?
Well, not really. Just really look forward to doing more of these things. I've really enjoyed sort of talking back over stuff. You know, as I said at the beginning, reflection is something that we don't do enough. You know, we're really busy, and you know, we've tried to do that with things like our quarterly best bits PDF, which goes out to all of our customers and on social media and stuff. Maybe we'll bring some of that up next time because there's some great things in there. But no, it's just been really good. Thank you for
and that's the key thing, and this is what really worked for you, both in terms of Ford Gel, but equally what our collaborative work for your clients and vice versa, my clients with you as well, is that you talked about the PDFs that go out. The written PR is brilliant. It will stay. It's really important. But as we were discussing, is it being read? How much of it is being read? And is it being read in the right tone and emotion?
Totally.
We could have put this discussion in writing, and hopefully you all agree is that it's just so much better to get the people brought to life.
Totally.
That really helps that connection, and it's been an absolute pleasure sat here chatting with you guys about it.
Yeah.
We should have had someone topping up our coffee. That was the only thing missing, wasn't it?
Some pointers for next time.
Every show will improve. So,
Absolutely.
Get some pastries on the next one. Or whatever.
But I mean, awesome to hear the story. Wicked to hear from your perspective coming in that what was promised. To hear the journey that it's gone on, including the challenges along the way. No one is able to put it through these rose-tinted glasses. It's always going to be a challenge. But it also brings to light about how, again, I'm speaking from experience with two of my companies working with you guys, is that it's just this nice. It's even a collaborative, creative collaboration, client to supplier as well.
Totally. It doesn't work without the client and their industry knowledge and everything.
And that's what I love. So, guys, thank you very much.
Thanks,
and we'll be back next month. We'll finalise the date. It's probably going to be a fairly fun one to some extent.
Christmas jumpers are mandatory.
Exactly. It's going to be taking us into that Christmas period, probably that last week before Christmas.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we'll do something there.
And that will be live this time on your YouTube channel and Facebook page. And people will be able to get involved with questions and comments. And I'm able to put them up on screen and everything. So it's really, really cool. So watch this space. We'll get that out. Clips of this interview will be going up, etc. But we'll catch up with everyone next month. Cheers, guys.